feel better.
Oh, no, not another box of dogs.
It's another box of dogs!
Stop drinking liberal piss water.
Wolf, wolf.
Who does Esau/Edom represent today, and what will happen to them in the end times?
Oh, so that's really easy. So Edom is Christendom. It is the implacable enemy of the Jewish people.
The concept of Esau as Edom and as Rome was changed, transformed into a religion. So therefore, any nation that has that religion can be considered Esau. See? So therefore, it's not one nation that is now 2,000 years or whatever, but it is a religion, and any nation that has that religion predominantly is called Esau. Christianity, of course, ultimately became Western civilization. So Esau today is really Western civilization, because Western civilization is basically Christian. And therefore, that is considered to be Esau.
Esau, who became Edom, who became the Roman Empire, which metamorphosed into the Christian Empire, which became Christian civilization, now represented by the United States of America, will suffer a crushing, humiliating defeat.
Esau is everything that's wicked in the world, and it's the Edom. Esau is Edom. It's the final kingdom of the four kingdoms. It's the greatest, most implacable enemy of the Jewish people. Prophesy. We have whole books devoted to the destruction of Edom at the end of days. This is the last kingdom. In traditional Jewish thinking, it's the church. It's the implacable enemy of the Jews. It's a morphing kingdom. It's unlike the previous kingdoms. It begins as Rome, and then it morphs, becomes Christian in the 4th century, and then it divides and divides and divides.
So who's Edom? Edom includes most of Europe. It includes the United States of America. It's the Roman Empire that was never destroyed.
Edom becomes America. Why? Because America is Edom, after all.
Esau?
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the stream. We are live, and tonight I have a very special guest I'm very glad to be bringing back on. For the second time, his second appearance, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. E. Michael Jones. How are you, sir?
Good to be here.
Great, I'm glad to have you on. So, if I'm to believe social media, I understand that you're currently being overrun by transsexual immigrant Democrat voters who live in tents and are busy shooting fentanyl into each other's children while pedophiles throw money, mobile phones, and New Balance sneakers at them. Does that about sum up life in America at the moment?
Yeah, well, Philadelphia, certainly.
Philadelphia, really?
Certain persons, I grew up in Philadelphia, so I know whereof I speak. If you type in Kensington Avenue, you'll find exactly what you're talking about, because we have a Soros prosecutor by the name of Larry Krasner, who got elected not to enforce the law. And when you don't enforce the law, you end up with a situation like this. Both my family, my mother's family and my wife's family came from that neighborhood when it was a working class neighborhood. And what you're seeing is the result of half a century of cultural warfare, ethnic cleansing, and I described this in my book, The Slaughter of Cities, Urban Renewal, as ethnic cleansing.
Yeah, you've been on this for a long time, and your magazine, Culture Wars, covers this.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. I'll tell you. I'll give you the analysis, the short analysis. In 1962, July 4th is our Independence Day. July 4th, 1962, I was a 14-year-old boy standing at Independence Hall in Philadelphia, where they signed the Declaration of Independence. And on the platform there in front of me was a Catholic mayor, a Catholic governor of the state of Pennsylvania, and a Catholic president of the United States of America. And this was the worst nightmare of the people who founded America. They were Protestants. And the only identity they had was basically hating Catholics. So they're very similar to that group of people you just had on. with whom I agree 100%, by the way.
Right.
Okay. So just to get down to back to the microcosm, at that moment, the WASP elite declared war on the Catholic Church in Philadelphia. And the same thing happened in America. 1 year later, Kennedy was dead. He was murdered by a combination of the people you just talked to, or were just talking there, and the CIA. You can ask Robert F. Kennedy about that. Because they felt that the Catholics were taking over the country.
Well, that's an interesting thing, actually. I found a video. I had it here somewhere, but David Ben-Gurion and JFK got into it at one point. And there are some people who say, forget about the CIA, forget about Johnson. It was Mossad that took out JFK.
Yeah. I agree to some extent with that. But the Mossad could not have done it without the collaboration of the CIA. And the CIA certainly had motive to do it after Kennedy turned on them after the Bay of Pigs debacle and said he was going to break the CIA up into 1,000 pieces. So you can't, it's not one or the other. The fact Dallas is very important because the Jewish organization invited Kennedy to Dallas. They're the ones who planned the route. They were the ones that perpetuated the cover-up. When Lee Harvey Oswald, who didn't shoot him, was taken into custody, the Jews demanded that he be transferred from one jail to another. And at that moment, a guy named Jack Ruby, whose real name was Jacob Rubenstein, killed him so that he couldn't testify, so that they could never get to the bottom of it. And then another Jew by the name of Arlen Specter, who was a Philadelphia boy, by the way, who got prominent in politics by defending abortion clinics in Philadelphia, became senator from Pennsylvania, headed the Warren Commission, which was a cover-up. And so so 1 year later, after that moment, that epiphany at Independence Hall, I'm standing waiting to go run a cross-country meet. And the announcement came over the school intercom that the president had just been murdered. And that night, we found out who did it. Walter Cronkite came on television and said it was a lone deranged gunman. How they knew that, I don't know. But Walter, by the way, he got that from Alan Dulles, who was head of the CIA. Called him up and told him personally.
Dulles, yeah, his name keeps popping up in everything that I'm looking into now. A very important figure, very important family. Because John Foster Dulles was the Secretary of State under Eisenhower, and his son Avery became a Catholic while he was at Harvard. So this threat was an existential personal threat to the WASP elite because their own children were converting. He became a cardinal of the Catholic Church. So this was the threat that was being posed by the Catholic Church at that time. And obviously Kennedy was a Catholic. Yeah.
And that was why they had to kill him.
It really that connection, the connection between the Mossad and the CIA and the deep state, it goes back so far. It's been a thing for such a long time. A lot of people tend to think that Epstein is a new phenomenon, but these things have been going on for a good long time.
No, Epstein was blackmail. You want there are plenty of blackmail rings out there. Playboy. You've heard about Playboy magazine. Maybe you heard about the Playboy Mansion, where Hugh Hefner would invite prominent people to come for orgies with these girls that were the Playboy bunnies. At one point, someone discovered there was a camera in every single room in the Playboy Mansion. Someone confronted Hefner and said, "Oh, I just thought it'd be interesting." No, you didn't. This was blackmail. This was blackmail. We can take it back even further. J. Edgar Hoover. They had to carry him out in a box because he had so much information that he blackmailed any congressman who tried to cross him or tried to cut the money out of the FBI.
Yeah. It's fascinating looking into the way the deep state operates and the American government operates, the Australian government, the same. We're all tied into this web.
You are junior partners of the
I
American
know.
empire. You
Yeah.
and you better get used to it and not get uppity and start thinking that you have your own foreign policy, because we will come and slap you down. You wogs, you bloody wogs.
Yeah, we've felt that way our whole lives, really.
I know you did.
We're
I have-
thrown out here by England. And then you guys.
This is what happens when you steal Trevelyan's corn. You end up on a boat that lands in Botany Bay. I have my son, my oldest son was in Vladivostok, and he had a friend there who went to Australia. And when he landed in Australia, the customs agent said, "Do you have a criminal record?" And he said, "No." "Is it still a requirement to get in here?"
It is actually.
Oh,
It
good.
is. It is a requirement. We want the underhanded and the scum of the world to come here. That's what we should build our own statue. Instead of bring us you're tired, you're impoverished, just bring us the scum.
Yeah, how about some Philadelphians? We can ship them over to you.
Send them right over. Yeah. So we are in a spiritual war. We have been in this spiritual war for some time, and it's becoming more and more, it's becoming a hot war. What do you make of the situation in Gaza currently? I mean, to me, it seems they're pushing for their Messiah.
Yes, you're absolutely right. You cannot understand this unless you understand the specter that is haunting Israel at this time, which that's from Karl Marx. There's a specter haunting Europe. The specter that's haunting Israel is that no Jewish kingdom has lasted more than 80 years. This is Ehud Barak said this. This is a former prime minister of Israel. They all know this. They all feel this. They are obsessed with this idea, and this is leading to a sense of desperation in Israel.
Yeah.
And the desperation found expression with the incident that started this whole thing, which is an attack on the Al-Aqsa Mosque. And why are they attacking that? Because they want to tear it down so they can build the third temple. That's what's going on. That's the subterranean motivation for what is happening in Israel right now. And you've had this absolutely insane genocidal attack on innocent women and children in Gaza that has alienated the entire world. Now, I don't want to exaggerate here. There are some exceptions. There's the United States, and there's Nauru. I'm sure you're familiar with Nauru. You support
Nauru.
this place. Yeah, it's a blob of
there.
Yeah, well, it's a blob of bird shit that is they dug it all up. Now it qualifies as the original shithole country, and you've turned it into a concentration camp where you send people you don't like and you feed them fried chicken. So they're also the fattest people on the face of the earth. But other than Nauru, the entire world has turned against Israel because of its genocidal behavior. They can't hide anymore, and it's now having it's having effect in the United States. This has blown up conservatism. You probably watched what happened on the Daily Wire. Ben Shapiro is trying to give the impression that this is a conservative operation until you talk about Israel, and suddenly any idea of any American patriotism goes right out the window, and you can only be a real conservative American if you support genocide in Gaza.
It's kind of heartening to see on Twitter. People go on there, they will post pro-Israeli propaganda, and the responses, it's just flat out, no, we don't believe you anymore. You're lying. This is what you do. People are seeing through this now.
That's right. They overplayed their hand, and now the tide is turning. The tide is turning, and I think Australians should pay attention to what is happening in Ireland right now, because most of your DNA comes from Ireland. Most of your DNA, well, you don't have Catholic DNA, but anyway, and Ireland has now turned. It has turned, the tide has turned completely. They suddenly woke up to the fact that their country was taken over by Google and Big Pharma and all of these NGO operations, and that these people hate the Irish people. And now they're understanding. So they voted against the referendum where that Google, the Dunleary NGO Google crowd, they all live in Dunleary, evidently, have decided that the Irish people decided we're not going to change the Constitution. We're not going to get rid of terms like family and mother and father. And as soon as that happened, it was such a shock that Leo Varadkar, the homosexual Indian who somehow ended up as Taoiseach of Ireland, resigned. So this is significant. This is a significant change, and the people are saying that the Irish have suddenly woken up to what happened to them over the past 20 years, and they're turning against it.
Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear that, because I've been watching what's going on over there, and I keep wondering, when is the will of the people going to have an effect? What are the numbers that we need to affect the changes that we want? Because as it is at the moment, they ignore what we say, what we want.
Right. The fundamental political problem now is that the governments of the majority of places in the world do not represent the people that they claim to represent. They all represent some oligarchic interest group like the World Economic Forum or whatever. In America, it's some Jewish operation like IPAC, which controls the Congress and even controls the state level. But so the Jews are good at that. They can get the choke points. They go to some guy who's at a choke point and they say, we'll give you a lot of money. Or we'll say, here, we'll give you money if you do what we say. And if you cross us, we'll run you out of town. So that's what they're good at. But they're not good at basically influencing the large majority of people. This goes all the way back to the Middle Ages, where St. John Capistran talked about Jewish privilege. This is in the 15th century.
Really?
He talked about Jewish privilege, and Jewish privilege at that point is very clear. The Jew comes in and offers the prince loans at low interest rates on the condition that he can bring his loan operation in and charge the average person 43 1/3%. That's the deal. That's how they took control over little principalities in the Middle Ages. And that's one of the ways they do it now.
I came across a publication on Twitter, or X as it is now, that it just outlined every time the Jews had been kicked out of a place. Right. And it's I hadn't realized it was 80 years was the number, but yeah, they're coming up on that. Do you think
you didn't realize so many countries were anti-Semitic, did you? You didn't realize that anti-Semitism was that bad back in the 3rd century.
Yeah. Well, I knew it's been a thing for a long time. I mean, the latest thing, Christ is King, is now anti-Semitic.
Right. Yes. Who knew?
Yeah. I mean, I've been anti-Semitic all my life then, I guess.
Well, now we're in Holy Week. And so what we're going to be, so I don't know whether it happened in Australia, but the Catholic Church in the United States decided to issue a warning about the Gospel of St. John. That's like the warning you get on a cigarette pack. You know, it's like warning. Listening to St. John can turn you into an anti-Semite. That's basically the message we got. But the problem is you can make statements like this, but you don't know the effect that they're going to have. And the effect is basically you put the idea into the mind of the Catholic faithful that was never there. It's there in the gospel, but thanks for bringing this up. The idea is the Jews killed Christ.
Yeah.
I've been a Catholic all my life. I never remember this as a child. I never remember people saying it one way or the other. It's in the gospel, but we just didn't think about it. But now, because they're warning you against it, they're bringing this to your attention, and that's the truth. Because St. Paul said the Jews are the people who killed Christ, and they are enemies of the entire human race. Well, we know that from Gaza, but now we're understanding the big picture thanks to the people who are trying to warn us against it.
Yeah. Yeah, there was what was the I guess the fellow you mentioned before, he was the Lucas Gage of his time that talked about Jewish privilege.
St. John Capistrano or San Juan Capistrano. San Juan Capistrano, they have a city named after him in California.
Oh, right.
A Franciscan monk, yeah.
You're aware of Lucas Gage?
Yes, I am. Yes.
Yeah. He's been really stirring up the hornet's nest.
Well, the example of what I'm talking about is Twitter now. So you got huge numbers of people now saying things that they don't want you to say. And, God bless Elon Musk. He's standing by that. But I'm saying don't blame Elon Musk, okay? Blame the people who are causing the problem. Blame the people who are killing Palestinians. Blame the people who want to ruin your career if you say something that the ADL doesn't like. People like Candace Owen. She will go on. She'll land on her feet. I'm sure she'll do well. But I mean, that's not. But the problem, that's not the issue. That it was a thug like Rabbi Shmuley Boteach that is going after her for over 2 years now. And now he's basically thumping his chest and taking credit for the fact that she's not there anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, that guy's a proper deviant prick.
Well, I mean, do you think he's making people think fondly of Jews? I don't. No. I mean, if he didn't exist, Adolf Hitler would have to invent him. I mean, this guy is... He's right out of the medieval playbook from Central Casting.
He is, yeah.
It was really good because it came down to the moment where Candace is talking to another rabbi. Okay, it's not just Shmuley, although he's really bad, but there's another rabbi who's saying, "Well, now, Candace, now sit down." Because he's an incredibly condescending guy who's trying to tell her that she's not allowed to say certain things. And she says, wait a minute, you can't impose your religion on me. I have another religion. Well, that's the heart of the matter. That is exactly the heart of the matter. And it goes to the heart of the American experience, which is basically don't impose your religion on me. The country was founded by people who didn't want their religion, other people imposing their religion on them. They were called Puritans. I'm not a fan of the Puritans, but I'm saying this goes way back and is one of the central tenets of American culture, along with freedom of speech. And both of them are being threatened by one group of people who don't seem to understand the impression they're making on the world majority.
That's what I don't understand how they're not seeing it. How they're not seeing the type. But the other thing is they want this. They want to bring about the 7 years of tribulation. It's part of their prophecy. They want to bring about the time where everyone turns their back on the Jews. That's the 7 years of tribulation. They've got the red heifers. I believe they've probably already made that sacrifice. If they haven't yet, they're about to. They're getting ready to. It's there in the prophecies.
Well, the fundamental fact that you have to understand is the Jews are blind. This is central to Christian iconography. So if you go to the facade of the cathedral in Strasbourg, there's a woman there with a blindfold. And that represents Israel because the time of her visitation came and she didn't see it. Well, that blindness will perdure as long as they are in rebellion against Logos, and as long as they, as your friends at the beginning of your program said, as long as they perceive Christianity as their main enemy, that blindness will perdure, which means they will do things and will not, without understanding the consequences of their actions. So Rabbi Shmuley is making the situation worse for the Jews. And he doesn't seem to understand it. He doesn't understand because he's blind.
Yeah, I guess that's an undeniable fact. I mean, they seem to be pushing the same the same techniques, thinking it's going to work when everyone is awake to it. Something I came across just a little earlier. I'd like to just play you this this little thing.
Have you ever heard of the Rebbe?
No.
So this man started this sect of Orthodox Judaism. So this man was the rabbi. He became a mentor of Netanyahu, Israel's U.S. ambassador, in 1984. The Rebbe was speaking to Netanyahu, and he said, since we last met, many things have progressed. What hasn't changed, however, is that the Messiah still hasn't come. So do something to hasten his coming. A couple years later, he told Netanyahu that he would one day become prime minister of Israel and be the nation's last leader before handing the scepter to the Messiah. 2009, became prime minister and was elected out in 2021. But then a few months later, he was reinstated. This time, he fully aligned himself with the ultra-Orthodox and the Zionists. A lot of them are very anti-Palestinian residing within Israel. If we're talking about the temple being rebuilt, the Muslims having claim of the Dome of the Rock on the Temple Mount, the Zionist party wants that out of there. Netanyahu has definitely aligned himself with the Zionist party.
And if it gets touched, war.
Yes.
So, yeah, Netanyahu being mentioned by the Rebbe, and I was interested in that particularly because there was a Catholic monk or priest who was kind of on the outer rims of Catholicism, but he predicted that Donald Trump would save America. I'm wondering, has anyone ever taken all of these prophecies and kind of lined them up?
Yeah, well, that man himself was the Messiah. That was Menachem Schneerson. His followers consider him the Messiah. He was in Brooklyn. His followers are still in Brooklyn. They're still waiting for him to rise from the dead. I mean, it only took Jesus 3 days. It's been a couple of years now, so maybe it's harder to do now than it was then. But it's not just that
type.
I don't know. We'll have to take that up in another podcast. But this is not just some rabbi. This when the Messiah tells you this is going to happen, you have to take it seriously, and I think the Jews have taken it seriously. And I think I may very well agree with that. It may be that Netanyahu is the last premier of Israel. That may very well be the case, because there are people who are now saying, and people who are forced to draw the proper conclusions from their behavior in Gaza, and they're saying that basically people who feel this way have no right to govern. They have no right to govern people. You don't have a right. Likud doesn't have a right to exist. You know, you can argue that you don't want to slaughter anybody and ethnically cleanse, do another reverse of what the Israelis are doing to the Palestinians. But that doesn't mean that your government has a right to exist. Is there a divine right that says the Republican Party has to exist in America? No. Well, there's no divine sanction or permission or right that the Likud Party has to exist there, or that Zionism has to control the government. And it may happen that it will change. It may be that this is the end. Maybe it is. Who knows?
Do you see them being tossed out of Israel?
I do. I mean, there's so much dissension now. The United States. Look, the United States is being run by a senile old man who can hardly walk up the stairs to get on an airplane. But if we look at who's really running, it's Biden's minion. There's 457 Jews running it, and Netanyahu has basically alienated them as well. And that's hard to do. But I mean, the United States now is not going to veto the call for a ceasefire anymore. And if Netanyahu doesn't do what they say, they'll stop sending weapons. Even Chucky Schumer, the top Jew in the government, has said Netanyahu has to go. So I think his days are numbered.
Well, he won't go easily. I mean, if he is ousted, he'll pretty much go to jail, weren't he?
I think so. So he's got a certainly a motivation to stay in power as long as possible. And the only way he can stay in power is by precipitating this crisis by a crisis of universal proportions that is threatening basically the whole understanding of the world we live in. That's what he's doing.
Yeah.
Because if you're allowed to do this, well, then we don't have a rule. If there's no international law, there's no moral law, there's nothing except Jewish supremacy. And we have to accept it. So that means if they are right, then you have no rights whatsoever, because who's to stop them from treating you like a Palestinian? They've already set the precedent. If you are Amalek or you are Edom or whatever these guys are talking about, you don't have a right to exist.
Yeah.
Now they've already established this in the United States because they were the Jews. I'm not talking about Zionists now. I'm talking about Jews who were largely left-wing Jews, set this precedent by creating abortion as a fundamental Jewish value. They did this 50 years ago, changed the law of the United States of America. That means if you're not someone, if you're inconvenient, we can kill you. Well, if you establish it with the mother's relationship to a child, well, of course it's going to apply to an Israeli's relationship to a Palestinian. And if it applies there, where doesn't it apply? Where doesn't it apply?
No, it applies everywhere. To them, there is, I mean, I don't know if they see America as anything other than Israel, an extension of Israel. I mean,
well, actually, I grew up, I went to high school about a mile and a half from where Benjamin Netanyahu went to high school. He was in Philadelphia. He grew up in Philadelphia, and he would go to the Israelis and he'd say, "I know the Americans. You just leave it to me. I can lead them around like, with a ring in their nose." That's how he got the power. And so what now you have is, well, the tail is wagging the dog, and someone's going to have to stand up at some point and say, "Okay, no more bombs for Israel. No more money, Bibi. You're out." Even Chucky Schumer is talking this way. Anthony Blinken is talking this way. Well, they're both Jews. So if they're talking this way, he's in a very precarious position.
Yeah, I see it as it's run its course. It's come to an end. I don't really know what happens from here if they don't. I don't know if they don't stop. If they don't abide by the ceasefire, I see this ending very badly for everyone concerned.
Yeah, and someone, I think it was Max Blumenthal, another Jew, who said that this is the fundamental issue of our age. So, your grandchildren are going to say, well, what did you do when Netanyahu was starving those Palestinian children to death? What did you do? Did you do anything? Did you do anything? I mean, this is the frustration that we all feel. We all feel you can't talk to these people. You cannot talk to Ben Shapiro. No. You cannot talk to any of these people, because as soon as you start saying something they don't like, they call you an anti-Semite and they try to destroy you. And if you don't think I'm making it up, look at what happened to Candace Owen.
Yeah, it happens again and again and again. All I've been able to achieve is to get banned from social media repeatedly. Like,
well, that's the way they do it. Yeah, of course they do.
Yeah, there is the only thing that can happen is action, and I really believe that this is potentially going to lead to World War III.
Well, we can pray. We can pray that it doesn't. We can pray that it doesn't. Okay, so and what's another sign of hope? Victoria Nuland got kicked out of the State Department. Victoria Nuland is the Jewish lady who was responsible for the coup d'etat in the Ukraine in 2014, which led to this war.
Right.
She handed out cookies to the Nazis who were then shooting Nazi snipers, shooting civilians to start this, throw out the elected official. Well, she's gone. She's gone.
Good.
So,
Good riddance.
let's not ignore the good news, because if we do, we're all going to just jump off the bridge into the St. Joe River, or you can jump off into Botany Bay or something like that. But I mean, we have to. Okay, all right. So we have to have the eyes that can see the signs of the times.
Yeah.
And can see that there is movement here, and that there is a sign of hope. And if you can't see the signs, you have to have hope in God, who is the author and ruler of human history, which is exactly, by the way, what the term Christ the King means.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what that means. The king is in charge.
Yeah.
And that means that God is the Lord of history. That's what that means. And if the Jews don't like it, well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah, look, I don't actually see it going to World War III. I see enough resistance and enough people, and even a lot of Jews coming out and saying, this is wrong. You cannot do this. And
right.
It's created that schism of the Jew and the Zionist.
Right.
Recently, the three Jews that went and accepted their award at I think it was the Oscars.
Right. Yeah.
And they renounced their Judaism.
Right.
And
that's good. That's good. Yeah. That's a good thing.
It was wonderful. And they got pilloried on social media by Jewish people.
Right.
But again, everyone in the comments was just like, go to hell. We don't believe you anymore. These are the good people. These are the people we need.
That's right. That's
right. So there's definitely hope. I mean, I have more hope than pessimism.
Right.
If this thing was allowed to run out of control, that is definitely where it would go. It could only go that way.
That's right. That's right.
But, sorry, we have a comment. Oh, this was from earlier. Lol, I'm no wog. I'm a proud convict lineage. That's my friend Harvey. He might join us a bit later. So what are you working on nowadays, Doc?
Well, I'm working on a book on American identity. This is, we are former colonies. The United States separated long before Australia did, but we're part of this. We're part of the same world. We're part of the English-speaking world. Well, colony, and so because they separated early, there was this constant idea of what does it mean to be an American. And it happened. Samuel Huntington is a Harvard professor who wrote a book in 2001 called "What Are We?" No, who are we? Who are we? So he's thinking about this issue back then. Recently, a man by the name of Emmanuel Todt, Frenchman, wrote a book called La Défaite de l'Occident. It's in French. You got to read it in French. But basically, his premise is that the United States, the empire, American empire, is falling apart because the hidden grammar of the empire is Protestantism, and Protestantism has evaporated in America. It's not just in America. It's clear that he's onto something. It evaporated in Scandinavia, for example, because the Lutheran Church is no longer the established church in these countries. And when this happens, it causes an identity crisis. My friend Frody Mitjord was going to organize a debate between me and Jared Taylor in Zagreb. He was baptized as a Lutheran in the state church, and then grew up speaking Norwegian. How many people do that? It's a distinguishing characteristic. And then when the church disappeared, he looked around. He didn't have an identity, and so he decided he was white. And I kept saying, Frody, you can't be white in Norway because there are no black people there. You can only be white in America because there are lots of black people here, and of course it's changing because of immigration, all that type of stuff. But basically, this is the thesis of Todt's book, and I think it's a question that's worth talking about, and that's what I'm doing the research on.
Absolutely. It's been written about quite a bit how the black people in America were displaced, and so they had to reinvent their own culture, and that's what you have now in America. It's this kind of mishmash of Southern culture and English. I can't remember it's a dialect anyway. And I see that's what they've been trying to do with white people for quite a while, is just remove us from any sense of culture.
Right. Well, let's the term black and white came into being in America. It happened in Virginia because at this point they had tobacco plantations, and some of the workers were African slaves and some of them were Scotch-Irish slaves. The refugees after the failed Jacobite rising of 1745, the Scots, the Highlanders, were given the choice of being hanged or going to Virginia. Can I think this over a little bit? You know,
give me a minute.
Give me a minute. Let me think this over. I'll get back to you. And oddly enough, some of them chose to go to Virginia rather than be hanged.
That's an odd choice, but
so anyway, they arrived there, and there were black people and there were white people. This is the first time they used white to apply to an Englishman, because you can't be white unless someone's black. And that is the beginning. And this became important because America became important. But at the beginning, all the identity, this is Huntington says it, Tote says it, basically everyone says it. You had to be an Anglo-Protestant to be an American. That's what an American was. And at the beginning, the paradigmatic Americans were all preachers. They were all preachers.
All right.
And they had to kind of think it up, like what are we doing? And the only thing they had was the Bible, because they were Puritan Judaizers, basically looked to the Old Testament. And so they had to ransack the Bible to come up with paradigms, with forms that would make sense of the reality that they were experiencing, which no Englishman had ever experienced before. Like this immense forest that you're confronted with when you arrive in Massachusetts Bay. So what they come up with, one of the Puritan ministers wrote a famous sermon called Errand into the Wilderness. The Puritans were God's chosen people. They were the Jews. They were the new Jews. And the wilderness was obviously Massachusetts. But where was the paradigm? It was John the Baptist.
Oh yeah, in the wilderness.
But as I don't know the original, but in Latin, John the Baptist was vox clamans in deserto, a voice crying in the desert. Well, this is not Transjordan. You know what I mean? This is where John was on the other side of the Jordan River. It's kind of desert there. I guarantee you Massachusetts is not a desert. It's a big forest. And so they had to impose this thing. And after a while, they started to realize it doesn't fit. And over that conflict here, like it doesn't fit. Why doesn't it fit? Well, it's not a desert. And secondly, we got these hostile people. You keep trying to look at it through a Judaizing lens, basically. Like we are the Israel. We are the Jews. We are the real Jews. Increased Mather wrote a book about this it was called Jews in America, and basically said that the Indians were the 10 lost tribes, and constantly trying to shoehorn this into a biblical narrative and constantly being contradicted by the environment that they were living in. And so you put these two forces together and you come up with a new paradigm of what the American was. So you got the religion confronting the woods. And the classic example of this by the 18th century was a man by the name of Daniel Boone, who became famous as the frontiersman. The meeting, you've got existence and you've got essence. And you're trying to bring them together with figures like Daniel Boone. So what happened? Daniel Boone started off life as a Quaker. Quakers are pacifists. Okay, so you're going to be a pacifist and you're going to head west into hostile Indian country. Well, good luck. Good luck. And what happened is he had to understand the reality. He had to survive in that existence. And so he had to pick up a gun. As soon as you pick up a gun, you're not a Quaker anymore. And so this is how reality or existence modified the essence, which was their religious understanding, as the American people moved westward through the wilderness.
Okay. Yeah, they it's very much a culture born of that struggle of taming the wild.
Right. And you needed a gun to do it. And over the period of time, the gun became more and more important. And you ended up, okay, the frontier is closed in 1890. I know. We'll spread the gospel of Americanism to the Philippines. And then we'll spread it to Iraq. And then we'll spread it to Afghanistan. And so you have the soldier with the gun, with the religion of American democracy, and it's not working anymore. So Todt is right. The empire is collapsing.
Yeah. I think most people are aware that empire is. Do you think there is an attempt at some kind of handover of the empire? That the powers that be see that it's the end, and they're trying to do kind of a peaceful transition somehow?
No, I don't see any evidence. I think that the evidence up till now, judging by the behavior of NATO in the Ukraine, is they're doubling down. We're going to double down. Now, that was while Victoria Nuland was still in the State Department. And now the reality is setting in. It's basically, you're losing the war. NATO is losing this war.
Yeah.
So at that point, the adults are going to have to step up and make some type of arrangement here before it gets out of hand. And maybe out of hand already. We are already on the brink of nuclear war. So I think that one significant thing, I think that Macron, the lunatic, the guy with the Napoleon complex in France right now, has decided he's not going to send 2,000 Frenchmen to Odessa. This is what I've heard. If that's the truth, then that's a good sign. Schultz, who is a total pawn, total vassal of the American empire, even Schultz has said, the Germans are not going to go they're not going to fight in the Ukraine.
I heard similar things. I hope that maintains. I hope that remains the truth of the situation. I know we were training troops. We were talking about sending troops over there. I don't know what happened to that. I don't think we would ever have been told that troops were sent there.
Well, tell me what's happening in Australia. Are they ready to go and fight and die for America's siege on China? Are you guys ready?
Well, I mean, there are some people who are ready to go and die for anything.
Right.
They just want to go and fight. They don't care. But for the most part, no. Most people are very freaked out about the whole, one China, two China. How many Chinas are there? Most people don't want any part of that. They want Beijing to stay where it is.
Yeah, and let's be friends, and let's do commerce, and we'll all prosper, and let's kick the Americans out of our foreign policy.
Yeah, there is also the aspect of they are constantly drumming up fear between so that we're constantly scared of China. But they're our most important trade partner at the same time. So they're constantly creating those ridiculous
pacts.
And
let me give you the analogy here.
Please.
Germany and Russia, Australia and China. They're very similar. Okay. They're unnatural. They come together. Germany has high technology. Russia has energy. It's a marriage made in heaven. Oh, wait a minute. Someone blew up your pipeline. Who did that?
Who did that?
It was the people from Nauru who did it. They rode over there and blew it up.
Those
because
scamps.
they weren't getting enough fried chicken on Nauru. This is so you're in exactly the same situation in Australia, where there's a natural affinity between you and China, and the United States doesn't like it, and so they will get your leaders, whoever is in charge, and take them outside and say, "This is what you're going to do," and don't listen to the Australian people.
Yeah, we spent something like $21 trillion on submarines recently to defend ourselves from our
From Nauru.
Yeah, from Papua New Guinea.
Papua New Guinea. They're ready to march. Those guys with the bones through their nose. They're you don't want to mess with them.
The fuzzy wuzzies.
Yeah.
They were our friends during World War II.
Well, hang around with the Americans, and no one will be your friend anymore. I guarantee you.
True. Yeah, that is very true. Oh wow. I've had fun with I noticed Jews aren't white anymore. So I remember when they were white.
Yes.
Because it was convenient for them
That's
to
right.
be white.
That's right.
Now they're not white anymore.
They're not white anymore. It's hard to keep up. It's hard to keep up. I know. It's hard to keep up. It's hard for us to keep up. So I can imagine what it's like down there.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, we're ahead of you in some ways, but completely behind you all the time. We're like the bull bar of America.
That's
Don't
right.
know what the hell's going on?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So that's why it's important that we talk, because the people need to talk to the people rather than constantly having every message strained through some type of mass media outlet whose purpose is to get people to hate each other and fight wars with each other. I learned this lesson in Iran, going to Iran. One of the great experiences of my life, where we could have direct communication with the Iranians there, who and explain to them that, it's not me. Don't blame me. Our government's controlled by Israel. They don't like you. I wish it were otherwise, but at least we can talk about it openly. And that was successful. That was successful.
Yeah. Yeah, you've been to some crazy places on the world that I would not, or you just would not expect. But you've really communicated with a lot of people
that's what inspired my book Logos Rising. Because we now have the ability to communicate all over the world. English is the lingua franca of the entire world. It's one of the benefits of the wretched American empire. It's like what the Greeks did. It's like what Alexander the Great did to the ancient world, allowed Greek to be the lingua franca. So we can talk, but now we have to talk on a sophisticated level so that we can have heart-to-heart talk. And I'm an optimist in this regard. I believe that we are all created by God as rational creatures. And so if we eliminate barriers like language and so on and so forth, we will be able to talk, and we'll be able to come to some type of rational understanding of the world. That's my optimism here.
I think that's a good optimism to hold on to. I don't think I've ever run into anyone in real life and they've been like, I want to kill you. It's always like this, hey, this person's actually quite pleasant. We actually have a common humanity about us.
Right. Right. That was the experience there. So I'm marching with about 3 million Iranians celebrating the 1979 revolution. I'm surrounded by women in chadors, and they're all shouting something. They begin by saying Allahu Akbar. Well, I understood what that, and then they start saying something I don't understand. And I asked my translator, I said, what are they saying? He said, death to America. I'm surrounded. I'm the only guy in Tehran wearing a tie and a suit jacket, and they're chanting death to America. No, I didn't take it personally,
Yeah.
There's a sense in which I understand what they're talking about, but the difference is you have to be able to separate the government from the people.
The people.
And the fact that your government is odious and doesn't represent your interests you don't have to identify with the people who are your enemies just because they say they represent you.
Yeah. I think that is something that is becoming blatantly self-evident now is more and more the governments and the people all around the world are separated. The governments, I don't see any governments particularly representing the people anywhere.
That's the problem. And I am not a libertarian. Okay. I do not believe that government is intrinsically evil. Okay. I'm a believer in government, but I know when government's been hijacked. And I'm not going to go along with that. I'm not going to identify with my oppressors. I'm not going to internalize the commands of my oppressors just because they claim to represent me. They don't represent me.
How do we deal with what do we do at this point? What, like, other than posting on social media, I really don't know what to do. I mean, protesting, getting out there, I don't know. How do we attack this? What is our move as people?
Our move is what we're doing right now. We have to talk openly about the situation. We cannot allow ourselves to be censored because you cannot act unless you understand the situation. So we have to have this consciousness spread throughout the entire world, that there is an order to the universe, that we are participants. This order was created by God, and we manifest that order, that God-like characteristic, when we talk to each other. Logos means speech. And this is the basis of all civilization, and it's the basis of any type of recovery of the of a civilization from the barbarians who are now slaughtering people in Gaza and slaughtering people in the Ukraine and so on and so forth. This is the way we have to go back to talking to each other. And that's why what we're doing is important. And then you will merge gradually, and a consensus will emerge. And then at some point, some politician is going to say, hey, here's an opportunity. And he's going to represent that idea. And then that will be the final stage in the process. I watched a movie about South Africa, about the Zulu Wars. And I told the white boys in Virginia, don't charge the machine gun nest with a spear. Don't wave your spear while you're charging the machine gun. Well, it turns out the Zulus did actually wave spears, and they did actually get through because it wasn't a machine gun nest. It was rifles that you had to kind of load, and they did get through. So the question I've posed since then is, who's going to be the first Zulu to get through? Is it going to be Candace Owen? Is she the first Zulu to get through? Where suddenly you break down the line, you suddenly get past the rifles, then suddenly you're in charge. This is the big question, because it's going to happen. It's going to happen sooner or later, because it's too big to ignore. There is only one political issue in America right now. It's not liberalism. It's not conservatism. It is Jewish control of our culture. Are you for it or are you against it? That's it. That's the fundamental issue. And Candace Owen hit the nail on the head when she said that, when basically she said to the rabbi, you can't impose your religion on me. This is a fundamental turning. Maybe she's the first Zulu. I don't know, but it's going to happen.
She may be. Yeah. Yeah. No, I see you. Yeah. I don't see them winning. I see the tide turning too much. They've overplayed their hand.
Right.
It's nuts.
There's too many. You said it, anti-Semitism too many times.
Yeah,
it's
everything's like, anti-Semitism now.
Yeah, Christ the King, anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
You know, so it's going to happen. It's going to happen by the grace of God and by the courage of people who have the courage to stand up and say, no, we're not going to go along. We're not going to go along with this. You can do, we're not going to say that Israel is justified in doing what they're doing now. We're not going to say that. We cannot say that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie.
No, you can't. Anyone I see justifying, and it's always the October 7. It's like there was nothing before. It's like before October 7, Israel and Palestine, it was just all peace and good times and neighbors sharing sugar. And
That's
it
right.
wasn't that.
No.
It's you cannot rewrite history to the extent. Even the lie of the 40 beheaded babies, they keep pushing it, and every time they say it, it's like a light going. There's lies, lies, lies.
Right. So let me explain this to you. If you continue to lie, you lose credibility.
Mm.
You know, I mean, there was this fat guy who has lost some weight. His name is Mike Pompeo, and he was head of the CIA. And he gave a speech in which he said, well, we lied. We lie all the time. Well, are you telling the truth when you tell me that you lied? Or is that a lie too? Or I'm confused here. But one thing I'm not confused about is you just shot your credibility in the head here. So why should I listen to you if you tell us you lie? Don't you understand the way this works? I don't believe what you're saying anymore. This is it's a fortiori true of the mainstream media, who are destroying their credibility on a daily basis by being nothing but a propaganda ministry for Israeli lies at this point.
Yeah. It really is kind of a beautiful time to be alive to see this, because through all the COVID bullshit, it was such a fight, and now we're finally seeing the numbers turn.
Has that changed in Wellington? I mean, that was the worst police state in the world, as far as I can tell. The way they were treated in that southern part of Australia.
People are being encouraged to forget. People are being, and us BoxOfDogs, we try not to let people forget, because you cannot forget. Like, what they did to us was unconscionable, it was unspeakable, and they will say they were just following orders, and it's interesting, because I would have thought more people in Australia, particularly more people around here, would have woken up. That would have been jarring enough to wake them up, but it wasn't. There's a lot of us that, we're not going to put up with this bullshit anymore. But I don't know. I don't know what it is.
Is it part of the Australian kind of personality that you're out on the big island where it's sunny and everything else seems far away? Is that part of Australian culture?
Yeah, drunk and sleepy. Very much like we're isolated, I guess. I don't know. We touched on this last time, but
it's maybe because our cultures came from England, which is another island where you can live this kind of isolation from the rest of the world.
Yeah, and there's also that entitled politeness that comes with it. I don't know what it is.
They destroyed that in Canada. Trudeau did the best to destroy that. If you stepped on a Canadian shoes, he would apologize. That was kind of the Canadian personality. And then suddenly he created the trucker strike, and then the truckers started, and then Trudeau panicked, and he played the Holocaust card. He played the Holocaust card on those truckers. They're all Nazis. They're all not. Wait a minute. Who knew that Calgary was a hideout for Nazis? Who knew that? And they're all driving trucks. Well, one lady who knew it was the Jewish MP from Newfoundland or one of those places. And she said, she stood up and said, I have relatives who died in the Holocaust. Well, you're in for trouble when this starts off that way. And then she ended up by saying honk honk equals Heil Hitler.
Yeah. I remember. Yeah.
Well,
I remember Hitler coming out. That was one of his main speeches. He did that. Honk honk. Famous.
Anyway, it's funny now, but it's not going to be funny if we haven't learned the lesson here.
Yeah,
we haven't learned the lesson of COVID, of control, how they control people, and the fact that they're not going to let up.
Yeah. No,
but
go on. Sorry.
But the other point is that you can't destroy consciousness. You can try, but once you understand certain things, you're not going to go back.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm optimistic.
Well, my only concern is that there are still, I don't know, the numbers here are concerning, because there are so many of us that are just like, yeah, we're not letting that happen again. But there are still, I mean, I got into an argument about the vaccine recently on Facebook, and I wasn't even trying to talk about it, but the same bullshit came up. Like it was like it's a film that's playing in their heads, that they just don't have anything else. It runs, and it's NPCs, we call them, and this is the script they're running. It's disconcerting. But I'm hoping that we do have the numbers.
Yeah.
Tip this.
So I'll just in closing share an incident. So rode up to Whole Foods. I'm ready on my bike. I'm ready to go. I got to go in shopping. There's a guy there, and he says to me, "You're E. Michael Jones, aren't you?" And I said, "Yeah." And then he said, "I stopped watching porn because of you." Well, that's significant, because porn is an addiction. So that's really hard to stop, that type of thing. But he did it. And that's a sign that Logos is rising. So that's the way I'd like to share with everyone. It's happening. Logos is rising. Things are changing.
That they are. Well, thank you so much for joining us here on Box of Dogs. You are welcome anytime.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it was wonderful to talk to you again, Doc. And good luck with your new book.
Thank you.
And I'll be reaching out to get some of your books again soon.
Great.
Great. Brilliant.
All right.
Thanks, mate. Okay.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Peace.
Bye. Well, that was Dr. E. Michael Jones, and that was really fun to speak to him again. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open up the stream. So if anyone wants to join, I am going to put the link in the comments. And it's probably gone up there. I think it's up there on YouTube. If anyone wants to join. Otherwise, we'll just run this down for a while and end the stream shortly. I had more to share here. Where are we? No, that's Lucas's. This I found interesting. Oops. This is the ADL. Yeah, this is why I post the speech videos. If we want to watch something, we will. Fuck these anti-American demons. Rabbi Seth Kaplan. And just, you can tell right away. He, him. He's got his goddamn pronouns in it. Anyone that, if you put your pronouns anywhere, you're automatically, I can't respect you anymore. If I ever put my pronouns anywhere, shoot me, because it's over. Every Hitler speech and writing needs to be deleted. Everyone who watches or reads his lies should be flagged and prosecuted. Yeah, fuck finding out for yourself, right? AI translated videos of Hitler's 1939 Reichstag speech, in which he calls for the annihilation of Jews, have recently gone viral, garnering more than 15 million views. Our Center on Extremism highlighted the dangers of deepfakes in June 2023. Okay, so they're just going to claim that they are all deepfakes now anyway. And it's going to be impossible to know what's real and what's not, and what's bullshit, what's what's a deep fake, what's not. So what I found interesting about the resurfacing of the Hitler videos, the most interesting thing to me is that people aren't particularly listening to the stuff he says about the Jews. Like, it's not exclusively like, let's listen to Hitler to hear what he says about the Jews. Like, he's talking about rebuilding the country. He's talking about having standards and not letting the Jews take over, not letting this the rot into the country. And that's what people focus on. It's not purely right. What else we got here? Now I think that is the one I played before. Okay. P. Diddy did something. We'll be addressing that on Truth Dungeon. All right. I'm going to share this one instead. And we're going to go there. And let's have a listen to what these...
Yishmael, it's the end of days. You're going to need the iron of Esav, which represents Edom, which is the West, Europe, and the Americas, to get intermixed with Yishmael, which is basically Arabs and Muslims. How in the world was this ever going to happen if not for this refugee crisis? At the end of days, you're going to have this intermixing between Esav, Edom, which is the West, and the East, which is the Muslims and the Arabs, making this through this influx into the world. They're going to have a far larger birth rate than the indigenous people there, and they're going to sort of conquer by number. And there are many different sources for this, where there will be many, many people killed and so on and so forth. So the idea of having these refugees come into Europe, it's no longer a matter of whether it's right or wrong. It's just simply a fulfillment of what it was meant to be all along. This is the fulfillment of the Hazal and the prophecies. This has to happen, and this is just another sign that we are nearing, the completion of this tikkun of the entire world.
But we know one thing, right? That when it comes to the classic Rome, which is Europe, they're finished.
And you don't have to be a prophet or a great analysis for that. You have to open the TV or the internet and see that exactly what was prophesied then, that the sons of Ishmael are going to go and cause havoc around the world. So France is completely barbecued. England is next. Now half of Europe is completely half dead. Now look what's going on in America. So, now in a country near you.
Asking what's going to be with the Goyim when Mashiach comes. Will they be destroyed and annihilated? Someone asked, who cares? Okay. As a nation, they'll cease to exist, even as individuals. Every individual, no survivors. Not only as a nation, they'll cease to exist, even as individuals. In modern terminology, they call it cultural genocide. They'll be annihilated. You basically learn there's going to be cultural genocide. You know what? The Goyim as they exist as Goyim, that's done with. Batul mavutul.
So there we go. The Goyim are done with. And that's you. That's you. Unless you're a Jew, unless you're in the club. You're done with. Fun times, really. Fun times. What's happening to my green screen over there? I'm getting a little... Let's see what's happened there. All right, we fixed that. Yes, folks, this is a green screen. I'm sorry to ruin the magic. I don't really live in space. I wish I did. Soon I'll live in space. Soon I'll have enough money to buy my own UFO and live in space. And I'll broadcast from space. And I'll tell you what's really on the moon. Because we want to know what's really on the moon, what's really going on up there. Because I don't believe it for a second. Oh, I wish I could find... Oh, no, I'm not going to bother now. But I posted on Facebook the other day proof that the sun is a rubber duck. Photographic evidence that the sun is a rubber duck. Anyway, let's not get sidetracked into silliness. Yeah, interesting time to be alive. I'm grateful, to be honest, to be alive. I mean, there's that Chinese curse. May you live in interesting times. Well, we are living in interesting times, folks, and this is the result of. But we got to stand up. So, I mean, this Gaza situation, I can't deal with it anymore. I can't imagine how the Gazans are feeling right now. I mean, I get so fucking angry when I see what's going on there. Let's see. Do I have this? Do I have it? I have it here somewhere. Let me pull this up because you know what? Screw it. It is time to get a bit fucking angry about all this shit. All right. I am going to pull that up. That's me streaming now. Alex Jones says Israel has lost the high ground. This is not war, it is robotic mass genocide. Section 1091 of Title 18, United States Code prohibits genocide, whether committed in time of peace or time of war. Genocide is defined in Section 1091 and includes violent attacks with the specific intent to destroy, in whole or in part, a national, ethnic, racial, or religious group. And this post is unavailable. Well, damn it. I posted on here, I have it on here somewhere, the footage of, this post is unavailable. This was the one. I had the footage of 4 guys just walking back to their homes to see what was left, and they get zapped by Israeli drones. Just, they're not carrying weapons. They're putting their war crimes. They feel untouchable. Obviously, they feel untouchable. Okay, the lawyer behind Hamas rape claims exposed as fraud. Well, who knew? I mean, I don't believe anything they say anymore. I mean, they lead with lies. Employees of Israeli ministers claim that Kokev Achem Levy has spread fake news and sought to make millions off her false claims about Hamas carrying out rapes on October 7. All right, well, I'm not going to bother pulling up that article. You mean Jewish journal is lying? I'm stunned, I tell you, stunned. Yeah, no one's surprised anymore. No one is surprised at all. All right, well, I think I will play something, play us out. Doesn't seem anyone's joining. That's fine. We will just play some of this. Oh, here's the Mossad killed JFK. Let's watch this one.
There's a very surprising series of letters between Kennedy and David Ben-Gurion, not only the premier of Israel, but the founder of Israel, in which they're very angry letters, in which Kennedy is saying to Ben-Gurion, I'm killing myself trying to get a nuclear test ban treaty. I've even got de Gaulle on board, and that's impossible. And you keep testing in Dimona. You've got to stop. And Ben-Gurion, thank you, in so many words says, it's easy for you to say sitting in Hyannisport, I'm sitting with the Arabs all around me, and you want me to give up nuclear testing. And Kennedy threatens him. And he threatens him in such a way that Ben-Gurion resigns. And I will tell you that I found articles, not in any crackpot publications, but in very sophisticated publications saying, forget Lyndon Johnson, forget the CIA, forget Fidel Castro. The Mossad killed Kennedy because they were so upset over what he did to Ben-Gurion.
Okay, so there you go. Now, I just was thinking then, this is probably going to get zapped off YouTube. So please join the Rumble, Box of Dogs on Rumble. We're over there. That's one place that they at least won't take us down. You know, this will remain up on Rumble, which is nice because I think the point of this stream, if nothing else, is we have to speak. We have to speak out. Don't be afraid to speak out. It's not easy to do always, but just continue to speak out because, oh Christ, Twitter is just, oh Jesus. Twitter is such fun. Anyway. Oh, here we go. Shmuley. Shmuley. You fucking... Let's see what this...
Glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Let's just go through this. 400 women shot in the genitals, their breasts cut off as terrorists played with
Lies. Lies, lies, lies.
their bloody breasts like a football. Glory, hallelujah.
Lies. There's your guy there. Every accusation...
Glory, hallelujah. Let's just...
Every accusation is a confession. I mean, that... We know this. Well, we've picked up some viewers. We're up at 10 viewers at the moment. That's grouse. So, yeah, I dare say this. If anyone wants to join the stream, I threw the link up in the comments on YouTube. So I believe it should be there. If it's not there, let me know. If anyone's interested in joining the stream, if anyone's got anything they want to add. I mean, we could keep going through Twitter for a while, but I kind of feel like this is running out of steam. So let us just land the plane, I think. So again, thanks to Dr. E. Michael Jones for joining me. I feel redeemed somewhat. The first time I had him on, it was my second ever podcast. I really didn't know what I was doing. So I'm glad to have done this one again with him. Anyway, as always, it's been a hoot, and I'll see you next time. Like and subscribe, by the way. Like and subscribe. I always forget to do that. But, you know, like and subscribe. Join us on Twitter or X, the Box of Dogs, at the Box of Dogs on Twitter. Box of Dogs on Rumble. Join us there. Definitely join us there because it is, yeah. I can see the reasons they're going to zap this stream already. Probably copyright bullshit. But let's hope it stays up. Let's hope it stays up. Let's hope people are more interested in the truth and keep speaking out. Don't be afraid to be called anti-Semitic. Don't be afraid to be called any. I don't care about being called anything anymore. Racist, anti-Semitic, homophobe. I don't care. These labels are meaningless now. They mean nothing. There is absolutely there's nothing you can call me that's going to stop me from speaking the truth, which is, let's stop fucking killing children in Gaza that have done nothing to you. These motherfuckers. They are bald-faced lies in your face, and we're all aware of the lies. We all know the lies, the bullshit these people throw at us. And so many people have been cucked in the past by all this bullshit. No more. No more. We're not doing it. I've never done it. But I have in the past folded under the pressure, under the weight, doing comedy and shit for comedy gigs, for spots, for 5 minutes on some shithead stage that thinks that they fucking, I run a room and I get people in, so I'm a fucking hero. No, you're a fucking idiot. Sucking up to the same Zionist bullshit, Jewish fucking liberal media cocksuckers. I'm tired of them. I'm done with them. I was never going to have a relationship with these people anyway. I'm not working for free anymore. I don't do that anymore. I do my thing. That's it. I'm not fucking. I applied for a job, and it was going to be some acting on stage. It was going to be a live thing. I thought that could be fun. That could be useful. Sharpen up my skills. Get me back in the game. And I applied, and it was like, oh, it's free. And as soon as I said, yeah, okay, I'll do it, and it's free, they started taking the piss. Just don't play the games anymore. Speak up. Speak out. It's the only thing we can do. I mean, fuck, how else? What are we supposed to do to end this bullshit in Gaza? I mean, I'd fucking happily drop a nuke on those cunts right now to end it. But you know what? I'm all out of nukes. That sucks. All my nukes, I gave them to my neighbor. My neighbor came over and said, hey, we need some nukes. You got any spare nukes? I said, yeah, sure. Turned out the neighbor was a fucking Israeli as well. So they've got all my nukes. God damn it. Anyway, fuck Israel. Fuck Israel in the fucking face. Fuck Zionists. And here's to the Jews that are standing up to this bullshit. Like the Mate family. They're fucking great. The Mate family. There's a terrific podcast where the three of them, Gabor Mate, and his two sons, one of them is a journalist. And they sit around talking about it, and they talk about their experiences, and that they reject the horse shit that's going on. And they're beautiful people. They're the people we need, It's the fucking Zionist pricks that are pushing this agenda. They are pushing for the end of the world. They really are. They're pushing for World War III, figuring that they'll somehow come out on top. Well, they won't. I'm telling you now, they fucking won't. They've been undermining our way of life for quite some time now. They've done like rodents, like insects coming in and just eating away at the wood in your home. What are they called? What are those fucking things called? Anyway, as I said, like and subscribe, and just keep speaking the truth. Love yous.